You're listening to We All Go Forward, a podcast on self-leadership through setbacks. With ownership, action, and growth, be set back, only to be catapulted forward into a more progressed, truer you.
Hey guys, and guess who? It's me. We are back, and honestly, I could not hesitate to take the chance before launching like our first official season 2 episode. I could not, miss out on the chance to just say hi and say, I missed you. Normally I ask you guys, did you miss me? In my Varnell Hill voice, but actually I came to say I really missed you guys. I was not supposed to be going that long. We took a little break in between seasons. The past year definitely served up some interesting experiences. And so even while we were recording season 1, someone that I knew said, why don't you just take a break and come back for a new season? And I'm like, I hear what you're saying, sound advice, but I was worried that if I would take a break, that I would break. And that's what I did. When we break, we break. It was longer than intended. Let's just blame the person who gave me that very sound advice. I had so many people checking in. The love was real. First, it started off just cordial and kind for some people, where it was just like, oh, missed the podcast, didn't see an episode, hope to see you soon. And then it quite literally turned into threats for some, but loving threats, just kind of that's long enough. I'm waiting, ... You tried it, ... And though no one showed up with bats to break my kneecaps, I did get a little bit of that feel, but again, with love. And honestly, that just was fuel. It just kept me fighting towards my why. Even while off, my platform would give me reports of people still downloading. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys so much. We honestly had a phenomenal first season, and that was all due to you guys. That's due to our amazing listeners. That's due to the amazing guests I had on for the first season. And just to share some of the recap that Buzzsprout shared with me, that's my platform for the podcast. We All Go Forward was in the top 50% of all Buzzsprout podcasts based off of average downloads in the first 7 days. Our most popular city that tuned in was Philadelphia. No surprise, that's my city, and I appreciate you guys. But we were streamed in 16 countries. The top countries being United States, of course, Puerto Rico, same territory, hashtag Bad Bunny, Canada, Italy, and Turkey. Like, what? When I saw that, I was like, that had to be one of the guests, because I'm sure that had to be somebody else that got people tuning in Italy and Turkey. And I appreciate it so much. And so I just really want to say thank you. I miss you. We're going to do a quick catch up. We're going to laugh a little bit, but also just something that I wanted to share before we launch into this new season, in terms of not just what to expect, but something that's on my heart, and how I would like to hopefully encourage someone today who is in need of going forward, but just doesn't have the strength to. Now, I guess I could probably think about catching up just a little bit. So I will share that, just for fun, some of the pros, and then maybe get into a couple of cons. So some of the pros were, I did get to travel a couple times this last year, which was very nice. So I went to Texas for the first time last year. That was actually for Woman Evolve 2024. If you were there, I was there too. Did not make it to 2025, but we're on last year. Last year, I also got to go to Colombia for the first time, and that was really nice. I went in November for a friend's 40th, and great time. But what I wanted to comment on was le manger, okay? The food, okay? La comida, okay? Y'all, when I say the price was right, the price was right. I was eating like a queen. And I really I was laughing at myself, because this is me in every restaurant, pretending, reading, my fingers are scanning the menu, pretending I'm going to order anything else other than fried red snapper, rice, and bun. Bun is your other Creole word for today. That's Creole for fried plantains, or just plantain in general. So I'm like, every time, y'all got fried red snapper? Oh, give it to me. Because in the States, The price is the price. However, traveling, I just knew the price was going to be change. Dollars, guys. Living like a queen, and every time I'll take the let me see how the fried red snapper, the rice, the plantains, and I was all right. Speaking of food, the last place that I got to travel to was this year, August 2025. We went to Jamaica, which was really fun. It was really nice. It was for another friend and family member's 40th. I'm going to put a quick pin. I'm coming back to this Jamaica food story, but quick pin, the 85 babies, y'all dropping like flies. You dropping like flies. I just want you to know, I see you. Okay, I just made it. I'm January 86, so I'm going to be all right. But the 85 babies, I see you. I hear you. I hear the knees going. I see the neck is a little kinked on the side. The hip is, I see it. It's okay. You guys are old, but just kidding. Had to mess with them a little bit because I got a few more months, but I'm in my 30s. That's all you know. But yes, that was one more trip celebrating somebody else in their 40s, a family member, and it was so fun. When I say that the trip came at the most terrible time for us as a family, which I guess I could touch on that next, but it did, but it came at the best time because it was just the perfect way to end the summer. It was what we needed after a very long year, and it was just great. Like the kids, the parents, all the friends and family together. It was a really good time. So, oh yes, I almost forgot. See, this is what I wanted to say though. This is what originally brought me here. I was talking about food in Colombia, and I must talk about the food I'm not going to even say in Jamaica. I'm going to say at this resort in Jamaica. At this resort we went to in August, they were really, really on island time. Like, the poolside food area is like, oh, we ran out of chicken, come back in an hour. Like, ma'am. However, every time I tasted the oxtail and jerk chicken specifically, I forgive you. Please forgive me. Forgiven. For is over. Swept under the rug. I already wrote you a 5-star review. I already forgot. I forgot. It was so good, y'all. And this is honestly speaking, I know maybe you don't know, there's like this long time feud of Jamaica. I don't know why specifically like Jamaican versus Haitian food. But I will say, finally, in this past year or so, I have noticed the internet and the Jamaican brothers and sisters have been giving Haitians their due. Because I don't even want to start no fights, but y'all already know. I ain't even got to talk about it. I'm Haitian. I already knew. Our rice, our there's foods of ours you cannot. I will always give Jamaicans credit for their meats. However, even within giving them credit for their meats, I have always had a bit of a bias, specifically in oxtail. I know it's strange, but I have a bias. I prefer Haitian green seasoning, Haitian seasoning. I always liked Haitian oxtail better than Jamaican oxtail. A lot of Haitians prefer the other way around, which is fine. This was the first time, y'all, when I say I would have pushed my kids over for this oxtail. I call rice and beans, or do you call it in this resort rice and peas, oxtail, plant, blow. Just give me the flag at this point. Give me the flag. Give me the lie. Give me whatever Shauna Paula said. I take it. Because the jerk chicken I just waited for a whole hour, it felt like, I know these people marinated these meats for a minimum of 3 business days. 3. Okay? And that's the way it's supposed to be done. Ask your mama, ask your pa. That's what you got to do. And that's what they did. And for that reason, God bless that resort in Jamaica. God bless them, because I had a great eat. It was a great time too, but like I said, some of the stuff you got a little irked with, but I had a great eat. Forget great time. I had a great eat. I was still thinking about it. And that's that. a lot of other good things. But speaking of that trip, it made me think of just something that I could definitely share with you guys in terms of what was not going so great. So on that trip, the reason why we kind of needed it as a family was so in December 2024, we got to celebrate my mom's birthday in a really, really big way. It was her 66th birthday. It was really nice. We had our party on a Saturday. By Sunday, I was rushing her to the emergency room and she had a confirmed stroke. And it was her second stroke because she had her first one in 2020. See what I say? By 2020, life has been playing unfair. But with that one, luckily-ish, she didn't have as many or really obvious residual effects. This one was a bigger one and it came with a lot. She didn't get home until like a full over a month later after like a week's stint in inpatient rehab. And then what came from that was months, like 7 months kind of aggressive outpatient therapy, for which my sisters and I, we all had our own task and we've been tag teaming to make everything work. I knew it was my job to get her to rehab. That's the only way she was going to, get her to therapy. That was the only way we were going to be able to do it. So, I was literally her private driver, but it was for free. It was for free. And I'd do it again, but it's been a long almost year. And so that's why I say that August came at a really great time. And yeah, so I say that to say, not just to throw my mom's business out there. We kind of kept that to ourselves, not even intentionally. I think I definitely function that way, and I think my family, we do too. We're just in the moment, like we're just addressing things. And also my mom, she was really and is very self-conscious about it. A lot of her, when I say like the drooping, all like reverse, like not even noticeable. So that is a win. But communication wise, that's the biggest struggle right now, dealing with the aphasia and apraxia. It's been a lot, but so she gets a little self-conscious about it and I understand why. But she has since opened up a bit more and we've had a lot of people just checking in and asking and wondering. And so that's my way of just saying thank you for all the well wishes, thank you for all the prayers, and thank you for all the thoughts. It really counted. And with that, I'll just, I said a lot, right, about where I've been, what life has been like, what's been hard. And with everything that I was going through, I started to look at what is the takeaway here, right? Like, not to say I have to share everything that I go through. No, this is months and months and months far removed where I'm reflecting on just the fact that I'm able to sit in this chair. And it was really not just because of my mom. There was, y'all know how life is. Like, mom is doing that. And of course, at the same time, my son tried to break another bone, literally. Or he did break one, but luckily he didn't need surgery. My husband, his gallbladder decided to give out where we were scheduled for surgery. And then night before, he decides to go option B, that the doctor did offer him, which was to just wait and watch it out. And that has worked in his favor thus far, but hashtag men eye roll. What else? I did not win the Powerball. Pissed. A lot of things. But if I really were to get into it, guys, when I say none of what I just described was the pinnacle of what would be stress. No, that would come sometime in the spring when I realized that, all of that stuff, the culmination is now forcing me to do a true inventory, an assessment of where my life is, of where it's going, and what's not working. And when I say that sounds maybe vague, that sounds very easy, but what came with it was like this huge interruption because it requires sacrifice. It required honesty with myself. It required disruption. And I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that. Again, we will talk about it, but what do you do? Like, it's so easy to let life disrupt when it's disrupting what feels bad or not helpful. Like, yeah, come on, we invite the disruption. It's going to help me out. But what happens when it's disrupting things that honestly feels like this is really going great? This is really going good. It's just not working. It's just not working. So that was my life. But in all of that, I started to think, how did you make it through? Like, what is a practical thing that you can share with people listening? And then it hit me that I really wasn't doing much of anything. I'm going somewhere. I couldn't. like, I know there are people who understand that sometimes there are some seasons in life where you kind of just feel like you're getting hit left, you're getting hit right. You're just tired of it, Even the most positive or people like me who try to approach things with humor, try to keep myself going like an Energizer bunny. I'm trying to tell you, I really felt like mentally, yeah, I'm way down here. I'm I'm way down. And I felt like there was I couldn't do anything. There was nothing I could say. There was nothing I could pray. And there was no room, guys. There was really not much room for me to try to do anything. And so somehow on the other side, not fully in everything, but yeah, I am. And I thought, okay, this is all about strategies. And strategies are things that people do. What did I do? And then it dawned on me that, yes, like, uh, you know, sometimes the strategy that I talk about and that I've shared with you guys thus far has to do with the work done by me. This is true. But right now, if I'm going to be very transparent, the biggest strategy that I can offer is not about the work done by me, but it was about the work done on me. And the work done on me was done by God. And I'll tell you the truth. I was so surprised at the fact that me saying that out loud here on this platform, on my podcast, felt like the hardest thing I had to say in this episode. Not because it's like this huge secret. I mean, it could be news for some people, but that I'm a Christian, I should say. But I think it was vulnerable. It felt very vulnerable and it felt very raw for a lot of reasons that I had to sit with, and also reasons that were so good for me in terms of recentering me and getting me here back to this place of recording. And so I was looking at season one. I can't tell you how many even tips or practical strategies that I share, and they are inspired or even sometimes came directly from reading scripture. Yet, I have always been a person that's extremely careful, yes, but I want to say considerate as to how I present that information. Meaning, whether it's my background in healthcare, or I think a lot of it has to do as well with my personality. I have learned in my life and in those settings that there are spaces that, yes, you may come with your foundation as Christ, your wisdom that you are presented is Christ focused and Christ based. However, you may not be able to insert the information directly that way out of respect for the fact that you are dealing with people of different cultures and backgrounds and walks of life. I think that that's human. I think that that's wise also. And then most of all, I do think that that's Christian. I saw my intention was to, I should say, imitate or replicate Christ, meaning what drew me to Christianity most. Sure, I grew up in church, but you have to make your own choice. And I would say what locked me in and really drew me as someone that always cared for and wanted to work with people was seeing Christ, the person, and seeing Christ, the deity. And all throughout the Bible, you have these examples of how I never saw him ignore an economical issue. I never saw him ignore a physical issue. I never saw him ignore a social or justice issue of a person and solely focus on the spiritual nature. And so you look at that and I see in Christ him constantly prioritizing both a person's body and a person's spirit. And so in anything that I have done, that has been my motto. That has been my ruler of I want to do that. So whether it's in We All Go Forward, whether it's in nursing, whether it's in healthcare and education, whatever it is, I wanted to replicate that understanding that both mattered. And so I look at season one, and even with people who understood my personal beliefs, I would make it a point, I want to say my foundation is Christ. However, the podcast is not Christian centered or Christian based. And I would say that with good intention. And then I think I started to realize that some of the limitations that I naturally, which makes sense, face and or exists in certain spaces, I try to apply those same limitations to this podcast. And it almost made sense until I started to look at the original vision that I had for We All Go Forward. And so in my early plannings of We All Go Forward, it was originally supposed to be a blog. And I don't know if I've ever shared this, but this is something quick that I could really say that, I didn't know that normal people like myself could start a podcast. And it wasn't the goal, but I wanted it to be a blog because I enjoy writing. And the two primary tabs that I wanted on the blog were, one, a tab on self-leadership through setbacks, like we've done and like we'll continue to do. But the other tab was that I wanted to have a devotional tab. And if you're like, I never heard that word devotional, Kim, time in devotion is time spent with God intentionally reading his scripture, but less to read it and more to allow the scripture to read you, with the understanding that it's alive. There is a living, breathing spirit behind this. And the thought process is that if I approach this, leaving room, creating space for God to speak to me, for God to do the work on me, then I will leave room to walk away with the practicality. I'll leave room to walk away with the insight. I'll leave room with the understanding on how this applies to my life right now. How can I use this to pray? How can I use this to focus? How can I use this to live? And so the reason why I wanted to include devotions was, yes, for that reason. But also I noticed that one of the ways, again, this is about me finding a way to serve people with the gifts that I felt like God naturally gave me. And so one of the ways that I would notice that God worked with me creatively was in devotional time. I'm not saying that I'm, this devotional guru, but I felt like that when I sat with God and say, God, speak to me, show me. Maybe it's because he knows this girl need the practical left and right. But he would just come to me very uniquely, finding a unique way to put something into my mind and heart. And yes, I'm participating. I'm writing down the insight. I'm writing down the devotional per se. But I knew that even, let alone when I shared it with people, for myself, I'm like, God is giving me something. He's showing me something, and God is doing the work on me. And so the best way that I could say this is that as the steward of this podcast, that I have to be, it's my job. I think that you guys would not expect anything less, but it's my job to kind of keep my ear to the ground, right? To really pay attention to, in what ways am I learning, but in what ways am I seeing that the topic of progress is relevant right now. And it's in both of those areas. It's always been that way, but I think that God is timely. Then the best way I think that I can explain that is by having a moment of vulnerability, having a moment of sheer honesty, and also a huge, huge moment of encouragement. So indulge me for some time. You might be thinking, Kim, I hear a lot of God. That's not down with me. You might be thinking that, but what I want to tell you is that if you've listened till now, and if it's not your jam, I want to thank you so much. And I want to also tell you that if you continue to listen, at bare minimum, what you'll hear is my honesty and transparency about what's truth for me. And it'll maybe give you a way to see me better and to support me better. Because I believe that this is like a peer, lateral relationship we have going on here. And if you are somebody who is, you've been listening and you want to keep listening because you see yourself and maybe what I'm about to talk about, or what I've been saying, then thank you as well. And yeah, keep listening because maybe I'm just one step further in the muck than you are. And what I'm going to say is going to help draw you forward, which is what we're here for. In 2025, I spent a large portion of time feeling very unqualified to talk about progress. And the reason solely had to do with my own setbacks. And yes, that should have been my first inclination and indication that, no, Kim, you do need to talk about this. Because if there's anything this podcast has taught me, is that setbacks do not disqualify us. No, not if we use them properly. On the contrary, they qualify us. because you learn and you grow there. And so as I looked at what did I learn? How did I grow in probably one of my most setbacking years thus far? That's not a challenge. I'm just saying, what did I learn? Well, I think one of my biggest lessons that I learned personally was that in the midst of some hard moments, sometimes, Kim, you'll be rendered quite incapable of doing the work. And I know that sounds backwards. That sounds unlike what we've talked about. Somebody's got to do the work. Somebody's got to do work if there's progress to be made. That's true. Somebody has to do work, but it won't always be me. As a person who believes in God, I'll tell you all the time, there is a spirit, there is a strength, there is a force behind and beyond me that enables me to persevere. But what I learned most is that sometimes I'm going to need an encounter with this very God, with this very strength, with this very force, where He does it on His own because I can't. I started thinking, because again, my brain just defaults to the practical. And how do we see this play out in our everyday life? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm just not going to stay there because this moment is not about that. But I started to think, okay, even if somebody's like, that sounds really hard to process or digest, or we play this out every day, that there are moments, like hard moments you go through where you feel like you can't do the work. But what happens? The spirit of love, the spirit of community, God working through people, God working through family, God working through community, God working through your church members, God working through your neighbors, God working through strangers, quite literally sometimes. They come behind you and they enable you to accomplish what you could not do in the moment. But I'm not going to stay there or focus on those examples, because I think the point that I'm trying to boil down to is God can come in those forms, but sometimes God comes in the form of Himself. And He does the work that I or we cannot. And if you struggle further with that, I want to tell you that I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I was doing a first take, and while recording, it dropped in my mind the Footprints poster from the 90s, guys. Everybody knows about this Footprints poster. It's like they stopped printing in the 90s. I don't know why, because that thing was fire. It's like, even if you weren't a Christian, if you knew one little granny who believed in God, they had this Footprints poem and poster in their house. And I say during the first take because when this came in my mind, I started talking about it. And in the words of the culture, I lost it. I could not get the words out as it started to hit me how much that poem embodies what I'm explaining and what I went through in 2025. In the Footprints poem or poster, in case you need any reminding, there's this woman. Well, first I'll say the poster became important. The reason why I like the poster, because it provided this visual, right, of I want to say of sand on a beach and wet sand, footprints in the sand. And let's just say on the poster there was a span of distance where there were two sets of footprints. And then right beyond that, you started to only see one set. And the poem reads, "One night I dreamed a dream as I was walking along the beach with my Lord. Across the dark sky flashed scenes from my life. For each scene, I noticed two sets of footprints in the sand, one belonging to me and one to my Lord. After the last scene of my life flashed before me, I looked back at the footprints in the sand. I noticed that at many times along the path of my life, especially at the very lowest and saddest times, there was only one set of footprints. This really troubled me, so I asked the Lord about it. Lord, You said once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I noticed that during the saddest and most troublesome times of my life, there was only one set of footprints. I don't understand why. When I needed you the most, you would leave me." He whispered, "My precious child, I love you and will never leave you. Never, ever during your trials and testings. When you saw only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you." I started to compare this to everything that I had written down and understood and came to explain to you guys today in this episode about why I needed to do devotionals and what God doing the work on me means. I, like all of us, I've had a lot of two set of footprints times in my life. And in those two set moments, I noticed that I intuitively recognized that, God, you're with me. Why? Because not incorrect, but incompletely, I am deducing that in the moments where there were two sets, I can equate that to when life was good. I can equate that to the good times. That's when I'm flourishing. I'm flourishing financially. I'm flourishing professionally. I'm flourishing in my health. I'm flourishing relationally. Everything is lining up in those two set moments. But the thing is, I started to think is that we probably don't notice that in those two set moments, there are likely cracks up and down that thing, but we can't see it. And we don't recognize that oftentimes when we're in the two set moments, right around the corner, a one set moment is on the horizon. Trouble is on the horizon. Setbacks are coming because that's how they are. Two set moments never, in that time frame, life never feels hard. And I started to think about how often, maybe it's just me, but we don't even share that the second footprint is there. Meaning we don't even give God credit. Yes, sometimes it's because of, we're human. So it's a little bit of a default, a little bit of a bad habit that when we're up, we forget. Yes, that's true. But I don't think that's the only reason why we don't necessarily say, here's God in it, here's God in it. I think the reason why is because I think that God is to a degree okay with that. And maybe that's how the way he fashioned it. Meaning, if he's with us and what we're doing when we're walking with him, when we're participating, when we're making life happen and making things happen, he doesn't mind that it looks like it's just us. And I think that makes a lot of sense because if you believe in what I believe, I believe that we're created in God's image. We don't, not literal image because he's a spirit, but we're created to reason like him. We're created to be creative like him, to problem solve like him, to be a representative of him, an extension of him on this earth. Why? So we can lead it like he would. So we can influence and impact each other, other people, the environment, our world in all these amazing ways. And in those times, God doesn't mind if it looks like it's just you. He doesn't mind if it looks like you're winning because that was the goal. As long as you recognize who and what your foundation and your source is. But I'll tell you that I have been in a one footprint time. And like the writer of that poem, I got it wrong at first. I looked at my life the past year and I was like, this is hard. This is problematic. This is not feeling great. Why would you leave me right now? Like, why? And in time, as I started to notice that things were happening in my life without me doing anything, I started to recognize I did get it wrong. I'm not alone. I'm being carried. For the year of 2025, I haven't been able to put my feet down on the ground for a minute. I could not participate in the ways that I was accustomed to participating. And I couldn't participate in the ways that I had hoped to at this point in my life. He'd been carrying me. And I'm here to tell you that if you're in a one footprint season, you're not alone. And honestly, thank God. Because I think the biggest lesson I learned is that whether you're in a 2-set or a 1-set footprint season, you're still moving forward. There's still forward motion. And I know it doesn't feel like it, but I think this is probably the top example of passive strategies. We talked about that in season 1. This is what this is the most passive that the strategy can get. Because if you're like me, you feel weak, you feel unimpactful, you feel lost in terms of what direction to go. I felt like I'm at a standstill. I'm standing at this fork in the road. Actually, guys, I felt like I was beyond the fork in the road. I felt like I chose a path past the fork. It was the path that God is like, this is your new path. Take this one. Go this way. And yet, the second I stepped onto it, I felt confused as all HE double hockey sticks. I'm trying to tell you. I felt like I am lost, like Lilo and Stitch. I am lost. And I'm not even trying to laugh. But it was no laughing matter because everything felt unfamiliar, unrecognizable. Whose life is this? This is not my life. This is not what I've worked hard for. I want to say I was. But the truth is, I have been afraid and I've been worried because, it's worrisome to, on one end side, I feel all this faith, like I'm safe in God's hands, but I'm still human, living in this world. And I don't want to even say on the other side, standing right in front of my face were all the worries of my future, trying to choke out every ounce of faith that I have. That you sure you want to kick your feet up now, Kim? You sure this is where you want to let God carry you? You sure this is where you want a one footprint season? I wasn't sure. I felt like, God, let me put my hands back on it. Even though I know I can't do anything, it just felt safer. Let me put my feet on the ground too. I need to feel my footing. I need to tangibly feel like I'm participating. But that wasn't getting me anywhere. And if you're on a similar journey, I'm telling you that this may be where you kick your feet up to and go along for the ride. You may not take the steps, but there are steps to be taken, just not by you. You may not make the progress, but there is progress to be made, just not by you. Someone takes better and bigger steps than you. Someone carries a heavier load than your shoulders can carry. And someone fights better than you could ever fight. And I'm speaking as someone actively trying to keep my feet up and be carried. I know I'm being carried. I know I'm being carried because I'm improving by literally doing what everyone tells you, don't do this if you want to improve. I don't know what to tell you. Anytime in the past, I'm trying to tell you, this has been a really hard thing that I have to let go of, because sometimes the outside world can look in and they're judging the decisions you make because they don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. And me, as someone who is so ambitious, someone who has always tried to, I'm taking this path, I'm doing the right thing. Y'all say school works. Listen, I come from immigrant parents. I'm a black girl. I'm raised in Philadelphia. I know the formula. It ain't what some of these other people do. I'm going to school. I'm staying in school. I'm listening to Smokey the Bear. I'm not starting any forest fires, okay? I'm listening to the Say No to Drug Police. I'm not doing the ganja. I'm not doing the cocaine. I ain't doing the heroin. I ain't doing none of that. I'm staying in school, keeping my head down, staying out of trouble, coming home. Ladies like I lick all. I'm getting a degree. I'm getting a career. This is what I know to do. And anytime this all just kind of started like maybe 5-ish, 6 years ago. The first time that God started to push me to pay attention, you're about to shift paths. The first time he did that, I pulled back, didn't kick my feet all the way up. He wasn't asking me to do that. I pulled back in a way that I knew how. And immediately, though, me, that type of personality, I put my hands on something else because I thought that's the way I had to make progress. I put my hands in school. I put my hands on another position. I put my hands on, some type of ministry. I put my hands on some type of community service. And all those things are good. But what I'm telling you is there are seasons. Those are 2 footprint season things. And God was looking at me during during those 2 footprints, and he said, 1 footprint is coming. You're not going to navigate it the way you think. He's been carrying me. And I know it because I've been improving by doing what everyone tells you you can't do if you want to improve. I've done nothing. Like I said, I haven't been in a class. I haven't been in school. I haven't been ambitiously moving my career forward. Yet, all of my priorities and responsibilities are in order, guys. When I say this is the most they've been in order in years. How? Why? Because God is carrying me. And what I learned in that is that carrying is care. God carrying me is God caring for me. Let me prove it to you. Maybe quite literally, when somebody carries you, that's them caring for you. But again, maybe like me, you need recovery. Maybe you need some readjustments. Maybe you need some repairs done. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, it's being done in this place of nothing. Because it's the only place it can be done. This is what I'm slowly accepting and realizing. I start thinking about a race car, y'all. A race car can't get repaired. Think about NASCAR or whatever. They don't get repaired when they're on the track driving 200 miles an hour or however fast they drive. It's really fast. These people are on the go. It doesn't get repaired there. It gets repaired when it's being carried. When that block is under there, wheels are off, jack is in place, that's where it gets repaired. They repair in the pit. They repair when they strip everything off and strip things down, and the tools that you've used to race and go are no longer in place. Your feet are up. You're being carried. And I believe I was tasked to just simply share that in devotionals, in these devotionals that I will introduce from time to time, that's where God does the caring. And my prayer and belief is that in them, God will give us clarity as to what areas in our lives require care. Where do you need readjustments? Where do you need repairs? Where do you need to recover? In the carrying, you give God room to diagnose and to write the prescriptions of what's wrong. In season 2, we're going to leave room. We're going to leave room for God's strategies of healing the spirit. Remember, it'll be just like that blog I envision. You can click one tab, you can click the other, you can click both. You can tune into standard We All Go Forward episodes, you can tune into the devotional episodes, or you can tune into both. It's okay. Regardless, God is tuning into both sides of us. It's His care. He won't offer you the spiritual without validating your natural cares. And the opposite is true too. He won't keep providing for you naturally and ignore the needs of your spirit and soul. And since He won't do that, I guess I won't either. Thank you all for listening. I know it's been a long time coming, but I am so glad to be back, and I will see you all in the next episode. And yes, if you know math or own a calendar, I am a D40. But let's just keep that to ourselves. Okay, let's go.